Alright, masculinity versus femininity. Now we need to go into a very important topic and talk about the main differences between men and women. If we strip ourselves of all social conditioning and beliefs, what we are left with are two polarities of energy. One is masculinity and the other is femininity. Scientists are still debating whether or not this is purely biological or if it's even purely psychological. But from what I believe, after studying this subject for years, I would say it is mostly biological. To prove my theory, we can take a guy named David Reimer as an example. If you've never heard of David before, his story proves that there are many differences between the sexes at a core level, regardless of upbringing or social conditioning. David Reimer was a Canadian boy who lost his cock during circumcision. His parents then came into contact with a psychologist named Dr. John Money. Money was a prominent proponent of the theory of gender neutrality, which basically said that the sex will be determined in the first years of a baby's life, depending on the upbringing it will get. So, with a damaged cock, the doctors would remove it completely and instead create an artificial pussy. David was then raised as a girl and was given the name of Brenda. Did it work? Did David grow up to be a healthy, feminine woman? No. As far as David could recall, he felt that something was wrong all his life. He didn't feel like a girl. When playing with the Barbie dolls that his parents gave him, he continuously looked in awe at his twin brother, who still had his penis, as he played with his cars. He was later told by his father about the lie he had lived all his life, and later on he committed suicide. The moral of the story is this: there are big differences between men and women, not only in how they look and how their bodies are formed, but also in how they think, feel, and act. A man has a masculine energy and a woman has a feminine. The differences between them are like night and day or like the sun and the moon. What they are really are one positive loaded magnet and one negative loaded. When they come towards each other, they are drawn together. The masculine and the feminine energies are what causes sexual tension. With two similar magnets, think two positive loaded ones, there will be no attraction. So, what are the differences really, except that they are opposites? If we were to sum it up in one short sentence, it will be that the masculine wants to dominate and lead, whereas the feminine wants to submit and be led. You can see evidence of this if you look at men and women's sexual fantasies. Us men will often dream about raping, harassing, or dominate women. It doesn't mean that we want to rape women in life though, whereas women fantasize about getting raped, used, and abused. Of course, there's a lot more to it than all this, and that's what we're going to go into right now. Masculinity, what defines it? If you are a masculine man, which you most probably are, at least in your core, you will have a few characteristics naturally that a non-masculine human being, i.e. a woman, doesn't have. These include: you're driven by freedom. Freedom from constraints, obligations, and even life itself. This is why you like to watch action movies, see violence, watch sports, or read philosophy. All of these are male subjects, and the reason we enjoy them so much is because they all represent a quest for freedom. You follow your favorite sports team because you want to see them win. And while this has an ego-boosting effect to it, it also affects and moves us on an even deeper level. When your team scores, it represents freedom. You have outmaneuvered your opponent and won. Thus, you have become free. The same principle applies to reading philosophy or religious texts. When you come to a new realization about life or death, you've in essence been set free. This is why we don't see any prominent female philosophers. I know there are one or two, but most probably because they are more masculine in their essence. In reality, it just doesn't interest women. I also said that the masculine searches for freedom from life itself. And while this might sound crazy, it is actually true. Thinking about death and facing it in its eyes is a masculine trait. So the next time you're watching a boxing match and you have a girl tell you, "How can you watch this? Are you sick?" Just tell her to shut up and don't neglect it. There's nothing sick about liking violence. It's just a masculine trait that we all possess. You're driven by purpose. A masculine man is always driven by purpose. This purpose can take many forms. The most common is make money, have a family, take care of it, that sort of thing. This is why men are such family people. They take care of their families and they do it with great pride. A bit later in this course, I'm going to tell you why this purpose is not the best one to choose and why that is. Just know for now that if you ever want to be happy in your life, since you're a man, you must have a worthwhile purpose. Otherwise, you'll see yourself becoming more and more depolarized, and feelings of depression, worthlessness, confusion, etc. will not be far away. How to find your purpose or higher calling is what we'll discuss a bit later. For now, just know that you need it. So, femininity, what defines it? Here's our opposite polarity, a polarity we can know all about yet truly never understand, and the same goes in the opposite direction, of course. This is what a feminine woman is in her essence. She's driven by constraints and fulfillment. This means that she's the opposite of wanting freedom. She wants to be filled with love and have a fixed set of rules that she is to oblige. Instead of sports, she likes to read romance novels, and when she is down and depressed, she fills herself with chocolate or ice cream. A feminine woman has no interest in philosophy or in saving the world. She has no interest whatsoever in exploring things or fighting a war, for example. However, there are other kinds of war that she's fighting, and I will talk more about that later. She's all over the place. The feminine polarity has no purpose or higher calling. It moves without direction. And I'm not saying here there are no women who has no direction in life. Actually, most do, and in a way that I will talk about later, but it's not a completely natural thing for them. When a woman says something, that doesn't mean that she means what she said. This is something that you have to know. She bases her opinions on her emotions instead of logic. And actually, this is why you can't trust women. They have a lot less pride and honor than their counterparts, males, and lying to them just doesn't seem like a big deal. Feminine is water, masculine is rock. This is something that you must know. The girl will always mirror you and act the opposite way of how you're acting. If you're acting like a bitch, she'll become your boss. And if you're acting like a man, she will act like a woman. In every relationship, there must always be someone who is more coveted than the other. One of you is always going to be the leader and wear the pants. And whether you be the one wearing the pants or not, it's up to you. It all depends on how you respond to the woman's little scams and tests she puts on you. They all do it and will continue to do so for as long as she's with you. In the next video, we're going to talk about the 6 human automated response triggers and actually how to do manipulation. This is very, very important. I'll see you there.